project, we were investigating the pH of soil, where pH is potential hydrogen. How many hydrogen ions are in the soil? Hydrogen ions are acidic, which means the more hydrogen ions are in the soil, the more acidic the soil becomes. All around the world, farmers are growing and producing food for the world and for people to survive on. What would happen if they weren't able to grow their food? According to the Scientific American, in the past 40 years, 1/3 of all good topsoil has disintegrated.
Scientists agree that at the rate we are going, all good topsoil will be gone in only about 60 years.
We have dedicated our project to researching pH and what we can do to improve the soil so that we can continue to have wonderful food to sustain our communities.
We investigated if acidity affects plant growth, if pH affects plant growth. pH is basically the amount of, it's how acidic and alkaline a soil is. So our question was if acidity affects early plant development.
We think that yes, as the acidity of the soil increases, the plant's quality, height, and growth will decrease. The acidity in the soil will have a negative effect on the plant.
Since we were trying to find out if acidity affects plant growth, we had the amount of acidity as our independent, which was the one thing we changed in our experiment. The height of the plant was dependent on the amount of acidity added. Other than that, we kept everything constant and we isolated our variable.
For our research paper, the main focus of the paper was to inform us more about how pH affects the growth of a plant. So first of all, what is pH? pH, as I said earlier, stands for potential hydrogen. How many hydrogen ions are in the soil? Scientists use a scale of 1 to 14, 1 being the most acidic and 14 being the most alkaline or basic, the opposite of acidic, to define what the pH of a soil is. So 7 on this scale would be neutral, where most plants thrive at. So we want to keep our soil at a pH level of 7 in order for this to be the best for our plants. We've also found that we can manually alter the level of pH by either adding organic material such as compost if it's too acidic, or vinegar if it's too alkaline, to bring it down a little bit on the pH scale.
First of all, to begin our experiment, we needed to plant our seeds. We used sunflower seeds for our experiment. We planted 24 sunflower seeds, 1 in each cell for our control group, then again 24 for experimental group 1, but this time we added 4 tablespoons of vinegar. Finally, for the experimental group 2, we mixed in 8 tablespoons of vinegar. 8 tablespoons of vinegar.
Okay. I think that the most important thing that we learned about from this project was that not only that plants are affected by the pH level in the soil, but that we can change the soil to support the needs of our plants. So we can apply this to the real world today. We can change the pH to help us keep on growing those plants and not use up all of that good topsoil for the world's crops.
So what would you say is what did you enjoy the most about doing your project?
Sorry?
What did you enjoy the most? What did you like the best about doing it?
I really enjoyed it, getting to see everything come together. We worked so hard on our project, and it was first at the beginning I was like, we will never get this done, but as we started to work on it and we learned a lot, and in the end here we are. So that was, thank you.
Outperformed the speaking group by a large margin, but oddly the speaking group did not outperform the control group. We have no idea why this is the case, but as you can see here, it was the case. when it came to finishing up this whole project, we just thought that our hypothesis, as you may remember, was that the speaking group would outperform the article group and the control group was completely false. We thought that the hypothesis would be correct because we thought we could make the speaking group have a better time understanding it.
Well, we had to figure out the math, how to do the graphs, and the technology we used was a microwave, and the science we figured out like what was in the popcorn.
For our project, we wanted to see which type of music had the best effect on memorizing. We chose this topic because we wanted to see what would be best for students while studying. We found out that for the best music to play was music with lyrics, and for no music at all, as they heeded the least amount of tries for all three of experimental groups.
Our hypothesis is if classical music is being played, the amount of tries that they use to flip over the cards will reduce. And our variables are, like, our control group is with no music, our constant is the order of cards displayed, and our independent is classical music being played and music with lyrics. And then our dependent is the amount of tries it took the participants to complete the cards here.
Is there anything else you would like to know about the project?
What do you think was the most important thing you learned from doing this project?
As a student, I would say the type of music, as I listen to music often when I'm studying or memorizing stuff for our like ELA tests, as an example. I now know like which type of music to use when I'm studying.
What about you?
I agree with the experiment that we use with music for
What did
studying.
you guys enjoy the most? What did you like best about doing the project?
To test people if they are similar to us, that we use music to study, because we both often like to use music to study for our ELA, math, science tests.
What did you like most about it? What did you enjoy?
I like to see the results that other people had, as some people, when they were under music, they did pretty terrible, but then while some did bad, some did very well with music. That is what surprised me the most.
What would you do differently if you were to continue using it?
Try it on different scenes that we're trying. So try something fun. And then science is just talking more to the camera. Professional math, data, and then science is really go for the 20, right?
So therefore, from our project, we found out that not having the ability to So our question was, does the amount of languages you speak affect how you do on the Stroop test, which is basically this, where you're going to want to say the color of the word, not the word itself. And in the end, we realized that multilinguals do better than monolinguals in Stroop test and other reactionary tests.
What do you think was the most important thing you learned?
I think the most important thing we've learned from this project is how to work together as a team effectively and efficiently.
What do you guys enjoy the most?
We probably enjoy doing the test and also assembling the board. That was very fun to do. And just doing the test and seeing what our work would do and what the results would be, and looking at the results, because they were very interesting results to see that, because one little outlier modified the results a lot.
Any advice for someone starting to do a science project for the first time?
You should do a project that has a question that's related to something you like to do. Like if you like to do art, do a project on art, or like how art can modify reaction times or something. Or if you like sports, do a question on sports, or if you like building, do a question on building. Do what you like to do.
So our topic for this is colorful grades, because our project is based off of color, and our question is that, does color affect memory retention, which is the memorability after color is changed? And our hypothesis is that if text is in color, memory would increase.
So the variables for our experiment is, the independent variable is the text color. It's text color of the reading. The dependent variable is the score on the memory assessment. The constants is the paper, word font size, students, time period, and questions. In our control group was the black text reading.
So for our research paper, we based off the question about, are people born with different memory abilities? Because sometimes at school, some people study like 10 hours and others study for an hour, and they got like a really good grade, but the other one who studied for 10 hours got like a decent grade or not as good grade. And we wanted to know that if people are born with memory abilities. And our research showed that yes, people are born with different memory abilities. For example, if one of your parents got in an accident that hurted their head or injured it, there could be some problems with their future child, that their memorability for their child might not be as good as some other people, such as like ADHD or some other memory ability that's injured, and that could be really bad. But many other people are really different because it's actually inherent from parents, so not everyone has the same memory ability. So maybe next time when you get a bad score on a grade, you can go ask your parents, it's not my fault.
So for the materials of our experiment, we got 40 black readings, 20 green experimental readings, and 20 red experimental readings. And we also got 150 question papers and color ink and black ink.
What do you guys think was the most important thing you learned from doing this?
So the most important thing from this was that color actually helps you with your memory on a test or a quiz, because sometimes people think that teachers make them take notes with colors is like a waste of ink or is useless, but this experiment actually proved that it is actually something helpful, and it actually really helps on your test and quiz if you study using colors.
Well, what do you guys enjoy the most? What do you guys like doing the most of this project? What do you like?
So my favorite part of this project is gathering everyone, making them taking the quiz and reading a story, and then I put everything in a data table and I get the average and see how the average actually proves that our hypothesis is correct. It really makes me happy because all these work proves that our hypothesis is correct, and I feel like all this work is worth it.
So the most exciting part of my experiment, I thought, was finding out that our hypothesis was true, because we spent so long trying to find a question, and we did a lot of research. We came before school and after school just to find a question, and our hypothesis actually was true.
Putting up all the work on the board and always making decisions together and watering them at the same time to make sure we were doing it at the same time.
our project, we wanted to figure out if eye dominance affects your hand-eye coordination.
And the way we came up with this project was because we wanted to come up with an original idea, and so we came up with if one uses their non-dominant eye, their eye and hand coordination should decrease, and we found our hypothesis to be true.
We came across this topic when we were playing basketball, and my friend was showing me how she shoots the basketball, and when I shot the basketball a certain way, it affected the way it went in the basket. The other way I shot it in the basket, it didn't go in, but the other way did. So therefore, we picked the way that it went in, and we picked a topic for our STEM fair, which was how your dominant eye affects it. And later we went back when we had gym class, and we shot it in. After I figured out what dominant eye I was, I used it the way I shot with my hands, so that I wasn't covering my dominant eye, and it finally went in the basket. So.
Could you tell me like what you learned from the project? What was the most important thing you learned?
So the most important thing we learned from our project was that in the future, like we could use this project to do if someone if young kids playing like sports knew what dominant eye they were, they could use this task and like experiment to actually be able to perform their skills and sports better.
What did you guys enjoy the most about doing this whole project?
I think we just enjoyed doing this project because it was so relatable. Like I said before, how we were playing basketball and we didn't just come up with it to come up with it. We came across a thing that was a problem to us, and we therefore made up a question and did a whole project about it. Yeah. I'm Caitlin Feeney.
Bridget Capone.
So for our project, we looked at how protein affects plants, and for our experimental group, we added protein into how we watered the plants, and for the control, we watered them with regular water.
Our hypothesis stated that the protein actually caused the plants to grow shorter and 2.56 centimeters less height and not as thick as the others.
So this contradicted our hypothesis, which was that if we added protein to the plants, that they would grow taller.
Our variables were independent they were the protein solution and the water that we added into the plants, and dependent was the height of the plants that grew.
Our constants included how much water or protein solution we watered to the plants, the temperature of the room, and what brand of the seeds. And for the control group, we watered just regular water.
And we also used a grow light instead of the light outside because we couldn't trust the weather because it was winter. So we also used a grow light so the data could be accurate.
What do you guys think was the most important thing you learned from doing this project?
The most important thing that we learned was that protein, when you add protein, it doesn't help the plants at all that we thought it would be.
And we also learned the importance of teamwork and how to work together on big projects like this.
What did you enjoy the most?
I think I enjoyed most growing the plants and being part of something bigger.
I enjoyed doing this whole thing together and taking pictures every day and printing it and then seeing the aftermath and all those things together.
Any advice for someone who's doing a science project for the first time?
Some advice would start at the beginning of the school year and then slowly work on it like Mr. Ram told us to, because you don't want to be stressed at the end when it's a week before STEM fair.
And advice for someone who's doing STEM for the first time would be just pick a project that you really enjoy and something that you know you'd really like to do, and don't stress, but make sure you keep constants and do your best.
Would I give your names again?
I'm Melanie Cretion.
I'm Kayla Liu.
Hi, so me and Sachi, our project is based on bioplastics. We got our idea from, because our lives are basically based around plastic since it's everywhere and it's really bad for the environment. We wanted to try to make something that's similar to it that could biodegrade.
It was pretty difficult finding all the ingredients because we don't have like scientific grade materials to use, so we had to use things that were from like drugstores.
What did you guys learn? What was the most important thing you learned from doing your project?
We learned that time management was a really important thing, as well as communication, because those two things are the things that we need in order to make a decent looking project.
What did you guys enjoy the most? What did you like the most?
It was probably the experimenting. I mean, like, it's just a lot of different substances, and it's kind of weird when you've never even like felt this stuff before, like ever even touched it. So.
Any advice to someone doing a STEM project for the first time?
Use your time well, because in the end you'll regret procrastinating because it's just not worth it.
She only got one question right. She's 3 years old, but her summary was really detailed and really good. So she basically captured everything from the story, but her answering questions weren't really good. Jasmine, she's our grade teen. Added his own names to the characters so he could remember them better. We think.
So next is our conclusion. So our hypothesis ended up being wrong. It was actually the young adult that ended up having the best memory, not a teenager. So we believe our answer, our information is correct because they all read the same story, had the same amount of time to memorize it, and had the same questions. Something that may have impacted our data was only testing 4 people. If